Director, I want to follow up and just understand a little bit why there is so much information about this out in the public, including some from you and your communications team, and yet you're here pursuant to a subpoena under oath in front of Congress, and you're unable or unwilling to answer some of those same questions. Can you just explain why you are answering so many fewer questions here than you have to the media?
I'm answering the questions that I'm able to answer based on the fact that there are multiple ongoing investigations.
But you have answered some of these questions previously, correct? To the public, to the media.
Which questions?
Well, did you have an interview with ABC News?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And did you explain the interaction between local law enforcement and the Secret Service, and that local law enforcement was responsible for securing the perimeter of the building where the shooter was?
I said that the Secret Service is responsible for designing and implementing and executing the security plan, and that we rely on the assistance of our local law enforcement partners to assist us with that plan.
Let me ask you something. Were you given any instructions about what you can and cannot answer here today?
My ability to answer questions is solely reflective of the fact that there are multiple ongoing investigations, and I want to make sure that I provide accurate information that doesn't conflict with any of those investigations that are going on.
So is it your view that you can't talk about anything that happened that day until those investigations are completed?
My view is that I want to make sure that this committee and the American public gets correct and actual information.
And so is it your view that that can only happen after the completion of the investigation?
It is my view that when the investigations are complete, that we will be able to share that information.
And how about before that?
If I have factual information that I can share before that, I absolutely will.
I'm guessing you have factual information as to when the suspicious photograph of the suspicious person was relayed to the Secret Service. There's a timestamp on that text message or whatever it was, correct?
Sir, I'm sure you can understand that when you're dealing with text messages, emails, and other communications, the timelines don't always match up.
Not really if they're time-stamped, but let me move on. Because you have acknowledged that this was a major security failure. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you acknowledge that it was a major security failure not to secure the rooftop of the building that the shooter shot from?
I believe at this time that the rooftop was provided overwatch. I acknowledge that we are unaware at this time how the individual was able to access the roof.
Overwatch meaning from other counter, sniper, other higher points?
Correct.
And so was it a failure then that when that shooter was on the rooftop, that Overwatch did not identify him before he fired his shots?
I don't have the timeline of how the individual accessed the roof, where they accessed the roof, or how long they were on the roof.
Let me ask a couple things quickly. You have testified here about all the resources that the Secret Service needed to deploy to protect the NATO summit and all of the leaders here. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you have to rely more on local law enforcement because of the NATO summit for this event?
The Secret Service routinely works with local law enforcement at every event. It doesn't matter whether it is a NATO summit, NSSE, the RNC in
No, but that's not my
Milwaukee.
question. Obviously, there's a natural give and take as to, I'm sure, how many agents you deploy and how much you rely on local law enforcement. Did you have to rely more on local law enforcement because there were fewer Secret Service assets available because of the NATO summit?
No.
I hope we get answers before the completion. I don't like the fact that the media has received far more answers than Congress has. If this is a function of getting your ducks in a row, I assume you have access to a lot of these reports and a lot of this information, and you should have come prepared here today. And I would just want to flag, Mr. Chairman, before I yield back, that I want to just point out one thing that my colleague from Texas was talking about. When he said he recreated this shooting twice with an AR-15, and he had a 94% success rate, 15 out of 16 shots. I don't know why that doesn't convince him that we should get rid of AR-15s, but clearly we need to do something about the prevalence of AR-15s and weapons of war on our streets. And I yield back.